Alrighty, here we go. Today is our second week of studying Brahmacharya, which is non-excess. Um, if you think about it in general as a culture, we are a culture of excess. Think of how much garbage we have. We're sending our garbage to other countries to be processed, to have them go through it and take it apart. We have I'll say even I have so much stuff that for my allergy mitigation, I am purging and purging and purging books. And compared to most Americans, we live very humbly. But it's something that permeates. It's probably in a lot of cultures, but it especially permeates in American culture. So why are we in this position of overindulging all the time? um, we end up getting this emotional feel good response to certain food or certain activities. And it becomes almost like an addictive response. I hate that word addictive, how it gets thrown about. But but we do want to get that high feeling, that woo, happy, happy feeling. But the problem with that is then we kind of crash afterwards. There's a little bit of a crash after that high. And so we get caught up in these cycles of up and down in our lives. Um, One of the things that we should start looking at for ourselves is looking for that perfect moment of just enough, so that when we eat that meal at the dinner table, even if it tastes really, really good, we become aware of when we've had just enough and not to eat past that. If we go beyond those certain points in our lives, we have a tendency then to just we become saturated. Um, if you're drinking alcohol and you start having one too many, then you start kind of getting stupid and you'll get more tired and you might have a hangover. If you're eating too much, then you get really, really full, or your body starts adjusting, and then that point of excess gets bigger and bigger and bigger, so that to the point where you're eating a lot more than you should. If you run too much because you love that high of running, you can run to the point where it's really not healthy for your body and how it functions. If you're a woman, your periods can stop because you've lost so much of your body weight. People blow their knees out all the time from doing it. Um, but but we aren't a lot of times very comfortable with that just enough state of being happy and content with where you are, without needing to feel like, oh, this is the best day ever. Every day can be the best day ever at more of an even keel. And getting to that point of equanimity where we don't have to have an excess of emotion actually helps us in the long run be happier all the time and be more balanced. Um, Part of what we are here to experience in the world is pleasure. But again, we don't want to tip that pleasure point into that feeling of addiction where we have to have that all the time, or we're not going to be happy or content. And that can be something as simple as a daily practice like coffee. Okay. A good cup of coffee, there's nothing wrong with a cup of coffee in the morning. And then the cup of coffee becomes 2 cups, 3 cups, a pot of coffee. Well, the more coffee that you drink, the more you actually get tired and crash in the afternoon. And then you need more caffeine. And then you'll be more likely to have sleep disturbance. And it sets off these other reactions in your body. So you go from this point of pleasure, and that's something that you enjoy on a sensory level, into pushing it once again into that excess. Um, it is probably more important for us to not worry so much about judging whether we are doing something too much, but instead do that somatic check in with our body and really listen to what our body is telling us rather than shutting it down. And acknowledge if our body says you've walked enough today, or you've had enough dinner, or that's enough caffeine. Just pay attention to what your body's telling you so that you can try to stay out of a place of excess and in this more of just enough, that perfect amount. So this week's little task is to live in non-excess, eat, work, and sleep to the point of increased energy and before the lethargy of excess sets in. Ponder the words of Gensi, a Japanese Buddhist monk who said, "The point in life is to know what's enough." For this week, know what is enough and stop there. Practice pleasure without excess. So with that, we're going to go ahead and lie down on our mats. And just begin with your body lying nice and long on the mat. Just do a soma scan, checking in through the whole body. Noticing if there's any little spots of tension that you can direct the breath to and maybe unwind a little bit from the inside out even before we begin. And then just notice your breath in your body today. And then I would ask for you, if you would please, just to place your hands on the lower part of the rib cage, maybe with the thumbs coming around the sides towards the back and the fingers towards the front. So you can just really feel that lower rib cage. And then if you would please exhale everything, emptying out that container. And then as you inhale, I'd like for your focus to be on expanding that rib cage as wide as you can on the inhalation. And when you exhale, allowing those hands to come back together, pushing as much of the breath out as you can. Inhaling and exhaling, feeling the movement of the hands on the lower rib cage. When you feel that, you can just allow the hands to release. And then let's just take this focus breath a little further with that umbrella breath. And again, thinking of the movement of that breath as we inhale, starting down low and sliding up and expanding nice and wide in that lower part of the rib cage. And then from the top down, feeling how the ribs come closer together. The lower rib cage comes closer and that belly grows softer and then completely releases. As you're doing this breath, start to notice how that movement of the breath coming in the body goes through the entire chest and the entire abdomen. So you'll feel a little bit of the shoulders rising. You'll feel the arms move. See if you can notice pelvic floor and feel it moving with the breath, expanding on the inhalation and releasing and relaxing on the exhalation. And then if you would please, one foot at a time, bring your feet into easy resting pose. Again, remembering feet are hip width apart. The knees are not dropping in towards each other. If they are, you might need to bring the feet a little closer together. If they're falling away from each other, you might need to bring those feet a little further apart. You don't want the back of the upper calf and the lower thigh to be pressing together too much. They should be gently touching. And then notice the weight distribution between the heels and the balls of the feet. You want to try to make them even. So if they're too much in the heels, you might need to move those heels just a titch in closer to the bum, maybe a little further away if you need to. Just move the feet slightly around until you can get that weight distribution just so. And then if you would please begin with some gentle arches and flattens in the body. The invitation is always to allow the body to be in charge of how far you move. That gentle rolling of the hips and the pelvis forward, the slightest pause, and releasing, and then flattening. And then if you would add in your shoulders with that on your next arch, allow the backs of the shoulders to gently press down towards the mat behind you. And as you release, the shoulders float up towards the sky, allowing the front of the body to have a slight curl to it. And allowing these arches and flattens and mini arches and curls to grow quiet in the body. Going to go ahead and begin with a few knee drops. And starting with the right leg, you're going to allow that right knee to gently drop away from the left knee towards the outside of the body. Remembering to go slow and steady. And coming up when you've reached your limit and repeating on the other side. Alternating back and forth. Then you can hug your knees to your chest and roll your back out in any way it needs to move. And then allow yourself to lie long on the mat and notice any shifts or changes in your body. So if you would please, if you get your myofascial ball, we are going to work in it in our trunk here on this side of our body, on both sides. And so I'm going to ask you before we begin, we're going to do 2 releases on each side of the body. So I want you to kind of get an idea of what you want to work in first in your body. Okay, so when you're going to come down onto your side a bit and then feel around with the ball. So the way I did it was I came in, it came up, and I moved up and down and around on my rib cage towards the armpit, down closer towards the hip. And then all of a sudden, 2 of the spots, I just kind of went, oh, aha, that's it. And I could feel that spot, okay? So when we find that spot, you're gonna lie down and your arm can be underneath your head like that. Or if you are able to, let that arm go long, you're gonna get a little bit more of a release going. And so you wanna send the energy through the arm and stretch that way. So let's find that spot that you want to start with. And we'll lie here for 1.5 minutes. And just pay attention, noticing how the sensations change and shift. Pay attention to the rest of the body. Seeing if you can notice yourself holding yourself tighter in one spot. As if you're compensating. See if you can just relax those places. All right. Staying on the same side, come up a little bit and just move it to that second place that you feel that you should be at. Maybe it's changed a little bit with your release. Just come back down on top of that spot. Again, checking in, making sure that you're not holding tension someplace else. Trying to allow any extra tension to release. And then you can come off of that side and roll on over to your other side. And let's go through the exact same process. I'm going to ask for you to, first of all, try and locate the little spot in your body where it feels a little tighter first. So you're going to have to move around and play with it. Oh, right there. All right. So let's begin. Again, checking in with other areas in the body where you're holding tension, allowing them to release so that the fascia in this area can also release more thoroughly. And then moving that ball a little bit to the next spot that you've identified that you'd like to release on. Everything's comfy there. And then let's just remove that ball and just roll over onto your back for a moment. Legs long, noticing any shifts in the body. All right, we'll roll over onto your right side if you're able and push yourself upright. We're going to go to a standing position. So this time when we do the release, we're going to bring the arm, can't really see it there, but you're gonna, I'll come on my knees to do it, that'll be better. You stand. You bring your arm up over your head, if you can, and you're gonna bend to the side like this, and you wanna elongate the crown of the head and elongate through that arm, and you're gonna feel it through here. Now, if your arm is tender and you can't do that, I practice today with one way of doing it would be to bring the arm up like this, if you could, with it bent at the elbow and coming over, even putting a little weight here and helping it come over this way, or simply bending and elongating the neck. So find that load that works for you. I'm going to hold this for a minute and a half. If your body asks you to come out sooner, please feel free to listen to it and do so. We have about 30 seconds left. If your body is asking you to come out sooner, please listen to that and do so. If you can, maybe elongate the arm a little bit more. And then let that arm come down. I'm going to stand up to do the next one. In your standing position, then notice how this side of the body compares to the other side. And then let's go ahead and repeat. We have about 30 seconds more. Like to release. Feel free. And then release that arm. Stand upright. Check in. Notice how the upper chest feels. The side of the body feels. All right. So if you would please come back down on your mat. Lie for a moment with your legs long just to see how it feels. And from here, I would just like you to now do that gentle psoas release. So if you would please go into an arch. Come up into easy resting and go into an arch. And allow that right foot to float up off the ground, having that knee drop in towards the torso. Go nice and slow and take that pause. And then allow the arch and the foot to release at the same time down towards the floor. When they both touch down, allow that right leg to glide nice and long. And when that right leg is long, go ahead and do another arch and flatten. And then gently roll that right leg externally towards the right. And then glide that foot back upright. So when that foot becomes even with the left foot, bring that knee back up into easy resting pose. Go ahead and do another arch and flatten. Release the back. Let's go into another arch. Left foot slowly comes up off the ground, knee dropping in towards the torso. Allow the foot and the arch to begin releasing at the same time, back down towards the earth. When they both touch, that left leg glides nice and long, slow on the ground. And do an arch and flatten here. Then externally rotate that left leg. And glide that foot back upright. And then do another arch and flatten. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to do side curls now. And I want you to be really comfy in the side curl. So while you can prop your head when you're on the side on your arm, you may prefer to have a pillow underneath your head in your arm. So think about that and decide what you would prefer to have under your head. So if you remember, for side curl, we're bending on the sides of our bodies. So you'll want to roll over, and let's all begin on our right sides. So rolling onto our right side, we want to act like we're seated very straight in a chair. So we want our knees at a 90-degree angle to our hips, and our feet at a 90-degree angle to our knees. So we're in that position. Then our heads can be on a pillow for support. You don't want to drop the back out backwards. You don't want to accidentally roll forwards. With pillow, if you don't want to use pillow, you can use your arm underneath your head. So let's begin by taking that top shoulder and slowly drawing it up towards the ear, just as far as it'll go. And then slowly allow it to release. And then once it's released, draw that shoulder deliberately down towards your hip, along the side of your body, just as far as it wants to go. And then allow that shoulder to release back to neutral. Now I'm going to ask if you would to please just allow that shoulder to slide down towards the hip and then release. And just do that a few times on your own. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you for just a moment to take, if you're lying on your right side, to take your right hand and wrap it around the front of your body so that it's lying on the left rib cage. So when you draw that shoulder down, I want to see if you can actually engage a little bit of the muscle under the hand. Those are the muscles that we're actually trying to learn to activate. These ones right in here. So see if you can try to feel those muscles and have those muscles move as a group. So it's not just the shoulder sliding down. Okay, so you can release your hand to however you had it before. Now I'd like you to take that left hand and put it on top of the pelvic bone right there. So here, with the knees together, pivoting off that top left knee, slowly float Let's begin by floating that left foot up as high as we can make it go. Just bring it up all the way and bring it back down. And let's do that again. So this way, with your hand on that upper part of that bone there, you're going to feel that movement of the bone underneath your hand. You're going to feel the movement of the whole side of the pelvis that way. Okay. You can keep your hand up there for a little bit more if you want to, or you can release it and let the arm lie longer in front. But now I'm going to ask you to just lift that left foot 1 or 2 inches and bring it back down on top of the right. These stay together. Remember to do this very slowly. The slower you do this, the harder the work is going to be. So just keep increasing that just a little bit each time. And remember that non-excess. Focus on what is just enough in your body. And see how it feels. See where you have control. All right. Now I'm going to have you bring that hand back up high up here. So most people talk about putting their hands on their hip, but we all know now this is not our hip. This is the top of the pelvis. But I want to see if you can possibly try to roll right there and roll that bone like you're trying to actually roll that hip up towards the armpit. So try to move that hip up. See if you can feel that movement. You may not, because it's really hard to get the pelvis to move in this way. See if you can do a little shimmy there, a little rock. All right. Now, if you would please, I want you to draw the shoulder, the armpit. I want you to draw it down towards the hip. And I want you to draw that hip up towards the armpit at the same time by lifting the left foot. So we're just going to allow that shoulder to come down and that foot to come up. And feel how the left side of the body gets shorter. The C curve appears in it. And then slow release. Really let your body relax. And then repeat. Now for fun, see if you can activate throughout the pelvic area by rolling that hip here up towards the armpit without lifting the leg as that shoulder and armpit move down to meet it. Again, that for some of you, it'll be easier to move that way, and for others, it will be harder. Just try and see. Okay. So, if you're content, stay working this way, leaving the arm on top of the body. If you think about just enough sensation, if this is just enough work for you today, then you work with the arm long in the body, either floating the foot or just rolling here at the hips, whatever works the best in your body. If you want a little more sensation, if your body is asking for it, bring the arm up over the head so that that left palm touches the right ear. And then, as you either lift the left foot or just rolling the side of the hip up, do that C curve a little bigger by bringing the head and the hand up off the floor where they're resting, getting a deeper C curve. And you can do the same thing, lifting the head and the hand up, but not lifting the foot. So we're just rolling the hip and the top of the pelvis towards the armpit. See which works best in your body. Between all these different subtle variations, pick one and work with it just a few times on your own. All right. If you would please just roll over onto your back. Notice the difference between the left side of the body and the right side of the body. When I have just completed it on one side but not the other, to me it always feels like the side that I've worked with is almost twice as long as the opposite side. That's how it feels in my body. So see how it feels in your body. You might have a totally different sensation. Okay, so now we're going to roll over onto our left side so that the right side is up in the air. Again. So I mentioned before making sure that we're not dropping back. One way to get a good idea if you're rolling backwards in the body is to look at the knees. That top knee is back an inch or two from the bottom knee as they rest together, then you're probably tipping backwards some. So again, we want our legs stacked like we're sitting on a chair, our shoulders stacked over top of each other. We can have the right arm long on the top of the body. The left side of the face is resting on the left arm or on a pillow, whichever you feel more comfortable in. And let's start with that shoulder shrug, drawing that right shoulder all the way up towards the left ear and holding it. And then slow release. And then allow that right shoulder to just keep gliding down along the side of the body towards the direction of the left hip. And slow release back to neutral. Again, draw that right shoulder up one more time today. So release. And the shoulder comes down towards the hip. And releases back to neutral. So I'm just going to ask you a few times on your own to just bring that shoulder down and release. And again, take that left hand now, bring it across the front and onto the side of the rib cage up here. And draw that shoulder and armpit down, but see if you can actually engage those muscles on the side of the body. Use that hand to help you find those muscles and see if you can actively try to draw those muscles on the side of the rib cage down. So the movement's not just the movement of the shoulder, but we're actually engaging those obliques. Okay, you can release the left arm. All right. I'd like to, for a moment, take that right hand and put it up here at the pelvic crest. And then go ahead and, keeping those knees together, pivot that right foot up as high as you can get it to go. And then slowly bring it down. And again, bring it up as high as you can go. Slowly bring it down. And then you want to release that hand. Let the arm go along on the top. Go ahead. But I want you to go ahead and allow that right foot to float up 1 or 2 inches with control. And bring it back down. And then go ahead and float it up another inch or 2. Bring it back down. And gradually increase this movement. You find the perfect spot for you. You haven't gone into excess. You found your edge. You know that you're working. Just go in and out to there. All right. Bringing the hand back up again on that top of the pelvis, top of that bone. See if you can draw that bone by rolling the hip out. See if you can roll up towards the armpit, back and forth. Let's bring that arm nice and long again. And let's join these movements together, having an awareness that we're trying to move the muscles here on the side of the rib cage. Just having that awareness. I'm going to ask you, you already know how to do both of these movements with moving here in the side body. So I'm going to ask you to decide whether or not you want to move the foot or just to roll the hip up. Or maybe you want to alternate, but I want you to join the movement of that shoulder and the hip so that you go into these gentle C curves on the side of the body. You'll be alternating with lifting the foot. Just do what feels right in your body. And if your body is asking to go a little deeper, a little more sensation, bring that right arm up over top of the head, the crown of the head, so that the right palm is resting on the left ear. Next time that foot floats up or that hip rolls up, go ahead and lift that head up off the surface below so that the hand and the ear and the head are all up in the air. C curve is on the side of the body, and then the hip and the head release. So whatever level you're choosing to work at, just work slow, with curiosity, into that perfect amount of movement and engagement. All right, release the arm if the arm's over top of your head. And then if you would please, just roll on over onto your back. Allow those legs to lie nice and long again. Noticing if the sides of the body feel more balanced and more at ease. All right. So if you would please, you can roll back over onto your right side and lie there for just a moment. And then push yourself back upright into a seated position. And in this seated position, you can just have your legs crossed in front. I don't cross my legs on top of each other. I pull in, usually I use the left one first, in towards my right thigh, and then I have the right foot in front of the shin of the left leg. It's a lot easier. Okay, so let's do a few side bends here. And you can just start by putting like your right hand on the floor next to you, kind of even with your hip, and just allowing the side of your body to bend a bit. Open that chest a little bit back towards the sky, letting that shoulder come back. And if you'd like to, allow that left arm to come up overhead. I'll make the bend a little deeper. And then you can walk your hand out away from the hip if you'd like to go deeper in that side bend. And depending on your body, you can even bend at that elbow to go a little bit deeper. But we're trying to find that place of perfection for the movement. And come back upright. Rotate on over to the other side. Again, rolling that head like you're trying to gaze up to the sky. And then coming back upright. All right, so sitting again with our hands shoulder width apart, we're going to practice that prana mudra. So if we remember that Brahmacharya, non-excess, asks us to step into life more fully, experiencing life more fully, and to be in tune with that, part of that is the life force and the energy in our body. We eat healthy food to support that in our body. We do practices like this to support the life force. So the prana mudra helps us call upon that soma in life, that rejuvenating nectar that's in all of us, and get that prana going. So if you remember, And we just slightly bring the middle finger and the front fingers to the thumb and extend those two fingers out. And that's all we do. We just sit like that. If you'd like to work with the mantra that goes with it as we sit here for 2 minutes, again, that reminder, that mantra is Om Somaya Namaha. Stop coughing before we begin. Okay. So again, if you want to work with the mantra silently to yourself, it's Om Somaya Namaha. All right. So let's release our hands there. We can get ready for our final relaxation. So you can come down to the ground and put your head on a pillow if you'd like to, or if you'd rather be in constructive resting pose for this, you may. It's up to you. You get all tucked in for yourself the best way that you can for your body. Maybe covering up with a blanket. Okay. So we're going to do the 31 point practice. And if you remember the 61 point practice, this is half of it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is that when I come to each of these points in your body and name them, if you would please just bring your attention to that point and just leave your attention there. Just think about it, maybe being lit with a blue light, but just really have your attention to that point until I direct it to the next point, and then move on. And we're going to take this nice and slowly so that you spend a little bit of time in each one. The center between the eyebrows. base of the throat. Right shoulder joint. Right elbow joint. Right wrist joint. Tip of the right thumb. Tip of the right index finger. Tip of the right second finger. Tip of the right third finger. Tip of the right pinky finger. Right wrist joint. Right elbow joint. Right shoulder joint. Base of the throat. Left shoulder joint. Left elbow joint. Left wrist joint. Tip of the left thumb. Tip of the left index finger. Tip of the left second finger. Tip of the left third finger. Tip of the left pinky finger. Tip of the left wrist joint. Left elbow joint. Left shoulder joint. Base of the throat. Heart center. Center of the right breast. Heart center. Center of the left breast. Heart center. Rolling the hands and the feet on the wrists and the ankles. And moving the body however it needs to move. Hug your knees to your chest and roll your back out. And stretch nice and long, any way your body needs. And roll back up into a ball. And roll over onto your left side if you're able. And then push yourself back upright into a seated position. And then from here, we're just going to do a short meditation. So we've been working with the metta meditation. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease of heart. You could do that, or you could do some umbrella breathing and really pay attention to that movement of the breath coming up from the bottom, up through the center, rib cage goes wide, and then back up, not the top of the head, just feeling it move up and down through the body. So just choose how you want to do it. And just pay attention for a bit. May all beings find happiness. May all be free of disease. May all see what is auspicious, and may no one suffer. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Well, thanks for being here to practice again.